Blessings, fam. This is Noemi with BG2G and Justice Advocacy or Justice Diaries. So I'm going to be talking about my experience with a case that seems to be over, but it's not yet over. I'm not letting it go. Christians Alliance versus Noemi Soto, which is me. Hashtag BG2G. So I want to give a little outline as to how this all kind of started. Around October of 2017, I connected with a beautiful woman who has a TV show on Nutmeg TV. And she wanted to interview me on Nutmeg TV for BG2G and as a rising entrepreneur. And I'm like, whoa, amazing opportunity. So in preparation for all that, right, I didn't really know much about Nutmeg TV. I went online, I Googled, I looked up her show to see what she does and saw some of the other shows that were on it. And in one of the shows that I was looking at, I believe it was, I want to say something with women. Anyways, one of the shows that I looked at was an interview of a man. His name was Glenn Russo of Christians Alliance, and he explained this amazing initiative, Save Them Both, that he was, leading. And the idea was basically, taking women in crisis pregnancies and plugging them into a local church body. So the church would basically adopt this woman in crisis pregnancy, and instead of her choosing to abort, this process would encourage her to save them both, save the baby, but also save her life, her soul, in essence, by plugging her into a church family and, amazingly watch the church body do what it's called to do, which is, help people. And so I saw this interview and I'm like, wow, what an amazing program. For those of you who don't know, I was pregnant at 14 years of age. I had my son when I was 15, and then later on I had my second when I was I had just turned 18. Like literally I turned August, and then September 11 my son was born, 12th. So and so I'm like, wow, and I'm seeing this program and I'm so inspired what the body of Christ is doing. That's amazing. And then he goes and he throws this pitch that they're looking for speakers. They're looking for speakers. They're in desperate need of speakers. And I felt in my spirit, God say to me, this is your next job. So I was like, whoa, amazing, great. My job, in essence, as a speaker for Christians Alliance would have been to visit churches, which I absolutely love to do, and speak about their program and basically generate, have like a table set up and get information for people who wanted to sponsor women and all that stuff. It was pretty basic. I was absolutely qualified for this job. I could do it. I would be visiting churches all over Connecticut, and I love networking. So I'm an evangelist at heart. I visit churches all the time as is, and this was just an amazing incentivized way of doing what I absolutely love to do. So I felt in my spirit, this is my next job. Immediately after my interview, I learned about Nutmeg TV, everything. I go on and I'm on mission. I'm like, this is my next job. In less than a week, I made sure I had car insurance in order to have access to rental rental cars on weekends. And for those of you who don't know, I don't know, sometimes Enterprise, the car rental place, they have these weekend specials towards the end of the year where literally you can have a 3-day weekend, Friday to Monday, and for like, I think it was like $12 a day, you can rent their car. And you have 300-mile limit, you know, as long as it's within the state. I wasn't going to exceed it. I knew it. Basically, it's like $50 or 60 plus, you know, with the tax or whatever, it comes out to like 60, 62, 63, something like that. And I would get a stipend on the weekend. So I'm like, this is so doable. And when Enterprise runs this, it's a promotion that goes from October all the way through March of the following year. So I knew I was going to be set for October, November, December, January, February, March, you know. And I'm like, this is amazing. You know, this is a little side job. It can totally work. So I secured the insurance. I secured, you know, an account with Enterprise. I was all set up. I called, I filled out the application. And for those of you, this is like their logo. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, Christians Alliance, right? I filled out their application. I had references. At the time of all this, I was visiting quite faithfully on Wednesday nights, their prayer and Bible study, a Baptist church here in New Britain. But of course, I lead BG2G, and I'm pushing, you know, this as well because this is my mandate. But I love fellowshipping with the church, so I took advantage. You know, I was fellowshipping with this Baptist church, Tabernacle Baptist here in New Britain, and within a week, I secured everything. I filled out, I even got the pastor at Tabernacle Baptist to write a character reference letter of recommendation. He was like, oh yeah, absolutely. And so I was all set. And then I followed up within a week. I called. I'm like, hey, you know, I saw Glenn Russo on Nutmeg TV, and I'm interested in becoming a speaker and everything. Oh yeah, we got your information. The whole thing was, I was scheduled for an interview on October. Everything was set, and on October 3rd, I had an interview with David Russo and a Kyle Michael. I arrived on time. I had the rental car. Everything was good. I brought my speaker bio, copies of my resume, references, personal ministry, everything. I was like on fire. I was like, yes. And I think even till this day, I can still preach and pitch their Save Them Both agenda better than most because I firmly believe it. I myself was a woman in crisis pregnancy, you know, as a young mom, not having their fathers available or committed. And you know, so I have the personal lived testimony, and I love visiting churches. So I'm gonna read from the complaint that I wrote. I was interviewed by David Russo and Kyle Michael. During the interview, it was explained that they were not the deciding factor in my employment, but that they report their findings to a board who then decides whether or not I get the job. So I'm sitting down, I'm having this amazing conversation. I'm telling them my life story. I'm telling them why this job is just amazing and how I love what they're doing and why I'm such a good fit. I have reliable transportation because, you know, if one car breaks with Enterprise, they're going to have another one available for me. It was all set up. It was all good. And conflicts arose when I emphasized that I was available to them every weekend. So I didn't analyze this like at first, right? This really happened after the fact, but I started engaging in almost like this very passive kind of argument with David Russo because I was like, listen, I'm available every weekend. And he would look and he'd be, oh, no, we won't make you do that. You know, it's important that you fellowship on Sunday with your church and all this, right? And I was like, oh, but don't worry, because I prefer my day of preference for fellowship is Wednesday night Bible study and prayer. And he said, no, 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 we won't make you. And I was like, well, I'm telling you, you don't have to make me. I'm telling you, I'm more than willing to work every weekend. I would be fellowshipping with, the members of the church that I'd be visiting anyways, right? So that I saw that as an amazing, beautiful opportunity. But he was like, no, no, we won't do that, which really makes no sense, because Glenn Russo was on TV basically saying that they're in desperate need of these speakers and in pushing this agenda. And here I am, ambitious and joyful for the opportunity, saying I'm available every weekend. Like, you guys are lacking, and I have an abundance of availability. And David is like, no, no, we won't make you. I'm like, really? It's not a problem. It's not a problem, right? Which was kind of weird. So David would rebuff with persistent clarity that they would not require me to work every weekend because of how important it is for me to fellowship with a home church regularly. I would immediately reply that my fellowship day of preference is on Wednesday night, Bible and prayer meetings, so being available every weekend is no personal conflict. David would reply, emphasizing that the most I should expect to work if I get hired is 2 weekends a month. And I would then reemphasize that truly this is an opportunity I am delighted to do, and that I have no problem or conflicts making myself available every weekend. Okay, right? They're desperate, so why are you limiting me? So that kind of went on a little bit. Throughout the interview, this rhetoric was repeated at least 3 times in various angles. Another conflict arose when I was questioned regarding my non-church affiliation, right? So you have Christians Alliance. I'm a Christian, right? And, but I lead BG2G. And so here's a conflict. I lead BG2G, a Connecticut registered religious corporation, but I fellowship with various Christian denominations from Baptist, Pentecostal, Assembly of God, Seventh-day Adventist, and various non-denominational and independent churches. I assured them that I am very well known as a devout Christian should they need more references. And I am, totally. Like, I have tons of people, the Salvation Army, Seventh-day Adventist, just all over the place. I am very well known to be a devout Christian. For most of 2017, I have primarily been fellowshipping at Tabernacle Baptist Church. During the interview, I was asked to fill out some forms, one of which had a space for church to be filled out. Having openly discussed my unique circumstances throughout the entire interview, I looked to both David and Kyle for guidance on how to respond by asking them, what do I put in after church? Because I represent BG2G, but I'm fellowshipping at Tabernacle Baptist. So there was this little kind of hesitance, like, what should I put, BG2G or Tabernacle Baptist? And immediately, without hesitation, Kyle responds, Baptist Church, just like that. He was like, Baptist Church. Okay. And following with equal reaction and no hesitation, David looks to Kyle and says, good call, right? He looks like good call. Being personally indifferent to either response, I conceded that their advice, believing that their response was a good faith gesture to enhance my chances of being approved by the board. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll put Baptist Church. Either way, I'm fellowshipping at the Baptist Church, but I lead BG2G. And I gave them my bio and everything on that, regarding BG2G, my ministry, everything. In total, my interview was about an hour and 15 minutes. I had an honest, confident, and qualifying response to every question they asked. Even when asked to disclose information about my disability, everyone was seemingly optimistic. I disclosed so much information. I trusted them that they were Christians, that they were fellow brothers in the faith with good hearts, right? And, part of Christians Alliance, right? It's like, I'm a Christian, yay, this is an amazing mission you guys are on. So I shared with them everything, being in crisis pregnancy, like, 15-year-old mom that left home. I shared with them my disability, all the trauma that I had endured, which was why I was so available for every weekend, because I don't have a full-time job. I'm disabled. Due to PTSD and everything, I have some stress limitations, but a part-time job on the weekend doing something I absolutely love was not going to be a stressful issue. And it's something that I was more than qualified, actually perfectly qualified. I wouldn't even say I was more or less than. I was perfectly qualified for this position. Okay. So I disclosed information about my disability. Everyone was seemingly optimistic. I told them that I would get a response I was told that I would get a response for employment in 2 weeks, and that was a standard procedure. So I'm like, okay, all right, I got a 2-week wait. On October 17, 2017, exactly 2 weeks from the date of my interview, I received a message from David Russo stating that my employment was denied. I gave David Russo a call back and asked him personally, why was I denied? And his response was that after 2 weeks of praying and seeking God's will, he felt it was not God's will for them to hire me and that they reserve the right to choose or deny employment on anyone. Check this out. They reserve the right to choose or deny employment on anyone. I asked David, what denomination are the board members? And he gave a long-winded, staggering response claiming that they were they're non-denominational. Like, okay, you're stuttering. Okay, I have exhaustive insight to the doctrines that divide Christian denominations. So this was what I'm reading from here. This was the original complaint for when I filed a lawsuit against Christians Alliance. So in paragraph 14, I start, I have exhaustive insight to the doctrines that divide Christian denominations. The preceding scenario would be understood, and for some Christians, even valid if, for example, I were to have sought employment at Baptist Alliance. This is a fictitious name that I'm using as an example, because traditional Baptist doctrine includes very strong, biased sentiments against women in position of authority, of which I am a woman in a position of great authority in respect to my role with BG2G. So, but with all due respect to the Baptist dogma, and keep in mind, I was visiting a Baptist church at the time, and I am aware, of boundaries. I'm not going to ask them to be, the pastor of their church or something crazy like that, knowing that Baptists don't really approve of women teaching men, and some of them do, some of them don't. It's been changing with time, but for the most part, their doctrine is like, no, men lead the church kind of thing. Women can take care of the children, but they can't teach a man. So, but with all due respect to the Baptist dogma, I did not seek employment at Baptist Alliance. I sought employment at Christians Alliance. And my position of authority with BG2G would not be a problem with other renowned Christian denominations and non-denominational Christian churches in general. Okay. So the Save Them Both program being promoted by Christians Alliance and Care for One Inc. is, in my opinion, a true representation of Christian goals and values, but the biased application of doctrinal beliefs exclusive to only some Christian dogmas cannot be lawfully applied to employment sought at an all-inclusive Christian employer. So this is where we get to like the meat. And you know what? YouTube family, YouTube world, please comment. Do you think there was some discrimination? I mean, I think it's almost blatantly apparent that there was discrimination here. Like, why was I not hired? And you know, the other key thing was their reaction when I had asked them about who do I put down under church. Kyle had said Baptist church. Well, what was wrong with BG2G? Like, I didn't think to ask that at the time. And also, when Kyle responded, Baptist church, and David said, good call. Why? Why was that a good call? Why was that better than BG2G? You know? And so this is where I feel there was absolutely some type of discrimination. Then the other thing that kind of highlights the discrimination is David's emphasis on Sundays. What does it matter if I work Sunday? You know, if I were to have been a Seventh-day Adventist, right? They celebrate on Saturday, the Sabbath. So they honor the Sabbath as the real day. Would Christians Alliance have a problem employing a Christian Seventh-day Adventist? You know, that's a good question to be asking. Like, would they have a problem for a Seventh-day Adventist working on Sunday? What was the problem with being available every Sunday? So this is where I feel that there was like a doctrinal type of bias with David. And then on top of it, they started the entire interview telling me that they did not make the decisions. And actually, David said that they, meaning David and Kyle, did not make the decisions, but that they were interviewing me and that a board was going to make the decision. But in the conversation on the phone, David tells me that after 2 weeks of prayerful consideration, he felt that they shouldn't hire me right now. And so right there, you know, David is a liar. David at Christians Alliance is a liar. And he either knowingly lied in the interview, or he later on lied on the telephone call. And I write here, despite being informed during my interview that my employment decision would be decided by a board, I include David Russo as a defendant in this lawsuit because during our last conversation, when I asked him why I was denied employment, he assumed responsibility for the decision, claiming that the result of my denial of employment was due to his final conviction and that he received through prayerful consideration. So that is the original complaint as to what started this whole case. What I'm going to be discussing next is how they responded, because the way they responded was really suspect. So stay tuned.